Some of my friends say he sounds a bit bitter. Some say he's a bit honest, but we're gonna have to see exactly what's been said here, people. Raul Sanllehi said, "I had to," and people I speak to say he's one of the nicest people they've met, really. Raul Sanllehi, "I had to lay off 55 people at Arsenal without knowing I was the 56th. They done you dirty. I loved it at Arsenal. You cannot imagine the people in the club, the history of the club," Raul says. "I really felt I was at the top of the world there. I love the owners, the Cronkies, but the last 10 months there were horrible. I had to lay off 55 people without knowing I was the 56th. Sanllehi is speaking to The Athletic in his office at his new club, Real Zaragoza of Spain's second division, whom he joined as general director last June. He was hired by an ownership group that includes MLS side Inter Miami president George Mas and director of Atletico Madrid Francis Lenz and Colombian club Millonarios." Big up yourself, G Navas. Again, appreciate you. It's screwed. Also, Tomori should go Nigeria. It's a bit too late for that, isn't it? Hasn't he been capped? It's a bit too late to do up motherland now for him. We will all talk about that soon, but first, Sanllehi wants to make it clear there are no hard feelings about his Arsenal exit, even if it came as a surprise to him at the time. Smash the like button, people. "I don't feel betrayed by the Cronkies. The Cronkies had the LA Rams, Denver Nuggets, and Colorado Rapids, and all of a sudden, all those teams could not play due to lockdowns, obviously due to COVID. You still had to pay the salaries. You did not have guaranteed broadcasting revenues. They entered into a panic, but a logical panic. As the world entered into a panic without COVID, I'm sure I would still be there, as my relationship with the Cronkies was great. I wonder what that would have meant for the general structure. It's funny, but I remember in December 2019, I had dinner with the four guys, in brackets, Mikel Arteta, Edu Hosfarmi, who's now left the club, and Mertesacker. They were plotting. On the toast, I said, now it's on us. Now it is exactly the model I asked for. If it doesn't work, we have no excuses. That team for me was a dream team at the time. Then in March, everything just fell apart. It was sad. Nothing lasts forever." Sanllehi says the dream team of Arteta, Edu, contract Don Hosfarmi, and Mertesacker fitted a circular club management model he learned in 2 decades at Barca and is now implementing at Zaragoza. Within the model, there are 4 points: head coach, sporting director, football operations, and academy. And they need to be very well coordinated, which is true. Big up you lot in the cut, people. Big up you lot in the cut. What's good? I'll take Louise in Jan, Prem proven and wants to join us. Can't go wrong, really. Amen. We'll get onto the transfers in just a second. Make sure you're smashing the like button and you're getting your talking points in. But so far, I can't disagree with Raul Sanllehi. I mean, for some people that said he was bitter and things, I can't happy at Arsenal. Based on what we've read so far, hasn't got any bad feelings to do with the football club, like the project we was going into, and more or less like how Edu and Arteta are there. Yes, you can blame the Cronkies if things go wrong because it's their club, but there's no excuses. You know, again, the last 2 seasons, including this, if we get top 4 or don't, or do it in Europa League or not, it is on the players and specifically the technical director, Edu and Arteta, in my opinion. So he is right. Everybody wants to see any club working in tandem: the head coach, the sporting director, football operations, and obviously the academy. Much like Arsenal, it doesn't matter how old you are. You know, current day Bukayo Saka and Smith Rowe. We've had Tony Adams, RIP Rollcastle. We've had people in it that do this thing from our academy, and you never want to see that stop. So it makes sense. Allegedly, Sanllehi's model was what convinced Ivan Gazidis, then Arsenal's chief executive, to recommend that the Cronkies hire him to oversee the transition from Wenger's 22 years as our gaffer. Arsenal had decided to move on from Arsene Wenger, one boss who did everything. Amen. Shout out Wenger. Scrolling all the way down, we all know Wenger was announced as leaving. We all know Emre took over. We all know it was a turbulent time. Mislintat was here at a time. Glazides left. You know, again, for the first people that take over from a sporting director role after, you know, from a sporting direction, after Arsene Wenger, or anyone who takes in any director role, that first sort of year under Wenger, of course, it's going to be difficult, and it's not that you're doomed to fail, but it's almost a poison chalice. Obviously, Emre, it didn't work out. Shout out to Emre, but it didn't work out. Don't want to go over that. It was crucial for Arsenal to make the Champions League. We're still waiting on that. We had a good coach in Unai, but losing the final to Chelsea made us stay in Europa, and also failing over a 38-game calendar, which made the second year hell for Unai. It had been the one boss model. All respect for Arsenal. What he did for Arsenal is unique and probably at that moment in time the best way to do it, but you had to develop, and that is what happened. The key to Raul Sanllehi's model was to have a sporting director or technical director. When he was at Barca, he worked closely with, I can't say that name, but we all know what he's done, who is now obviously who is now at Manchester City. So former Arsenal midfielder Edu was tempted away from a role at the Brazilian FA to take the position back in North London in 2019. The sporting director setup was very new in England. I had to explain that his highest priority is the first team, but he also needs to be in contact with the academy to know the transfer market. When things don't go well, you change the head coach, but the technical director is the one who protects the club, the sporting philosophy of the club, and model and safeguards the model. Obviously, after Emre was sacked that November, Arsenal finished the Premier League in 8th position under new head coach Mikel Arteta. Sanllehi still believed the structure put in place with him at the centre was moving towards success. Obviously, Vinay as well. I'm in the middle, like the director of an orchestra. Here are the drums, the cymbals, the violins, and the trumpets. They are very good, but if you do not coordinate them, then they may sound awful. At the time, at Arsenal, I'm reading ahead. At Arsenal, as head of football, I put Huss, Farmi, Edu, Mikel Arteta, and pair the perfect cross. He then says the English idea of the manager being in charge of all football affairs at the club, the way Wenger had been at Arsenal or Ferguson at United, does not work in the modern day. It can, but it doesn't, because anytime that manager leaves, it's an issue. Like Pep Guardiola, one good reason as to, I'm not saying City will have a next Pep Guardiola, but everything is in place for that next manager sort of thing, and so on and so forth. That's why Arsenal have been in trouble. That's why Ferguson and, well, post-Ferguson United were in trouble. That may happen to Liverpool if they keep just thinking Klopp can do everything by himself. I do not agree when clubs call the first team coach the manager. First team coach is the first team coach. That's enough. Nowadays, the workload is overwhelming. I need him to concentrate on the first team. Anything that distracts you from that is not your responsibility. Travel arrangements, the pitch, salary budget, medical department, we get to focus on the 11 the 25-man squad or the 11 starting players. The first team coach is short-term orientated, just win tonight's game, which is true. But I mean, if Arteta is the manager, that tells you that they want him long-term, Emery was significantly more experienced and has a better CV at this moment in time than Arteta was head coach. So that tells you the club is betting on Arteta. So with great power comes great responsibility. Again, anyways, away from that, when Sanllehi was fired in August of 2020, Arsenal's owner streamlined the model. Edu and Arteta's responsibilities expanded into areas he had been in charge of. Arteta's job title, as I just said, was changed from first team coach to first team manager. Sanllehi believes this was a mistake and that once circular model is now squashed out of shape. They have betrayed the model a little bit now by going back to the manager at the top. That is a mistake, but that is their mistake. I would not have allowed that to happen, but that's fine. It is working for them so far. That's enough of Arsenal. Let's get back to Zaragoza. It does seem a bit sour with that. So yeah, I mean this is just talking about what he's doing at this moment in time. Realistically, I don't really care about that. Are we gonna get back into Arsenal? Anyways, once you find a project like Zaragoza, it is much easier to get people to join the project. The group of investors gave us a lot of synergies to work with different clubs in different leagues, different continents, different cultures, which is great. They were ready to provide resources. When I had the first meeting with the investors, I realized this is what I wanted to do. That's great. Big up to you for finding a role and for the time that you spent at Arsenal. Zaragoza, they're not quite as good as, obviously I'm only 27, but not as good as in my earlier life as they are currently now. Well, they were better then. So yeah, it is what it is. The new owner's first big call was to replace veteran coach Joan Ignacio Martinez with obviously Calcedo, who had been Emre's assistant at Arsenal. He then says, and he is a maniac for developing talent. Even after leaving Arsenal, Smith Rowe, Joe Willock, Martinelli, Saka still kept writing to him many times. Have you seen my game? What should I do? How can I improve? He would stay after training sessions and train with them private lessons to get them where they wanted to be. And for us, that fitted with our idea to bring up the academy. And that's great because all of these players have kicked on. Out of that list, you've got 3 international players. I know Martinelli never got called up to the Brazil squad recently, like Smith Rowe. But him, Saka, Smith Rowe, better yet, Saka, Martinelli have kicked on. Joe Willock bet on, the club bet on Joe Willock. That's why, if you remember at the time, there was a summer where I think Dragomir went, Josh De Silva went, Brentford. There was a bag of midfielders going because, and I'm telling you this as a fact, the club bet on Joe Willock, said, you're the one we're going to kick on into the first team. Rightly or wrongly, he got into the first team. He was sold for 30 million quid. So, yeah, man. It is what it is, but that's good. That's an interesting one, and it's testament to these young players. They're hungry, you've got to be in charge of your own career. You look at Mikel Arteta; he has to be in charge of the group. Obviously, he'll work with you on an individual basis, but again, there's only so many hours in a day. There's only, beyond the obvious things every human has to do, there's only so many hours in a week. Now, I always say this to you, like, if I'm Mikel Arteta and I say, Saka, come and spend the hour with me, let's work on finishing. That might take an hour away from maybe working on positioning with Lokonga or whatever. Of course, you can bring other coaches into it, but again, that's taking away time. So the manager's first job is the collective. Then, if he can do that, but the players have to take it on themselves. Because for me, if I'm any of these players, if I don't get to where I want to, I can't rely on other people, sort of thing. So, yeah, man, that's a good little segment, I feel. Another priority was renewing contracts of the team's promising homegrown players. I mean, Sanya, if you really like Arsenal, yeah, tell us about these new Spanish youths that are coming through, really and truly. And it is what it is. But yeah, I think this has digressed a lot from actually Arsenal people. Oh, right, this guy was at Atletico. You didn't quite hit the heights, did you? Did you? So yeah, it's probably gone on the way. You know, the Athletic kind of tricked us really and truly here. You know, I don't really care about any of this, but yeah, he then went on to say, "It's very ironic. That goal is incredible. You could not have a movie script with that ending. I would love Zaragoza to play Arsenal again, as that would mean we have made it back. That would be a dream. Actually, I still have all the love for Arsenal. I am just very sad it had to finish. But this project for me right now is very fulfilling, and I'm loving every minute." So shout out to Sanye. I mean, it's not quite the article I thought we was gonna read. It's not quite the tell-all and all these sort of things, but it is what it is in that regards, man. What are you lot saying? No cap, the manager running the club don't work anymore, because once the owners sack him, his philosophy goes with him. And that's my issue, you know, and it shouldn't be that, you know. Obviously, if Pep Guardiola leaves City tomorrow, I can't tell you who's going to be the manager. There's not going to be a like for like, but you know what City are trying to do. They're trying to keep dominating the Prem. They're trying to win they're trying to obviously, you know, do what they did in the Champions League. They're trying to develop players that can be sold on for profit or reach their first team, you know. So it should always be there. It should be freedom within a framework. The club should always have a philosophy. I know Barcelona have got Xavi, but in the last few years, they kind of went away from it. But you knew whoever was going to be the Barcelona manager, whether that was Pep Guardiola, Tato Martino, what's the other guy as well? Villanova, RIP. People, Enrique, people are going to do things differently. And some had more success, but you know there was a certain philosophy. And that's what Arsenal should be, because as much as I'm with Mikel Arteta and I like what he's doing and things, if he leaves tomorrow, it's not like Sir Alex Ferguson or Wenger, you know. But Arteta's done a lot in the game, but he's done nothing in the game. You should be able to get someone that obviously puts their own sparkle on it and their own thingy on it, but should have the principles. Arsenal Football Club, we always bring through young players, or aspire to. We always, as mainly with Wenger, you know, we want to play sexy football and aspire to do that. We're a club that's always 2-3